You didn't lose me. You lost the only safe place your chaos ever had, and that door is never opening the same way again. My dear chosen ones, let that sink in for a second. Because the people who fumbled you are not mourning a breakup or a fallout. They are mourning their lost access, and I want you to hear this with your whole chest. When someone mishandles a rare soul, they don't just drop a person, they drop their own upgrade. That's why their regret feels so loud now. Not because they suddenly became better, but because they finally realized what they threw away. This is what I like to call, in idiomatic terms, they blew their shot, so don't you dare reopen the gate. Think about it like this, chosen one. Imagine someone deleting an app that held all their logins, their photos, their memories, because they were bored, and then suddenly realizing they can't get any of it back. That's them. They thought you were just another contact, just another body, just another warm voice on the other end of the line. Now they're scrambling, trying passwords that don't work anymore, trying approaches that used to open you up, but now hit a locked screen, and they hate it. Not because you left, but because they no longer have that easy access to the comfort, validation, and stability you gave away for free. You might be asking yourself right now, do they actually miss me, or just the way I made them feel? Let's answer that honestly. They miss how your presence calmed their storms. They miss how your words made their insecurities quieter. They miss how you made them feel like they weren't as broken as their habits. You were the mirror that made them look better than they really were, and when you stepped away, the reflection changed. Without your energy, they're face to face with who they really are. That's what's eating them up at night. Chosen ones, before we move forward, take a moment to lock in with me. If this message is already hitting something deep inside you, if you feel that fire waking back up in your spirit, I need you to support this movement by simply liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It may seem small, but it's the fuel that keeps us creating powerful, life-changing, energizing content just for you. Your support turns this message into a ripple that reaches thousands who need the same awakening. So, tap like, hit subscribe, and let's keep building this force together. My dear chosen ones, your power wasn't in begging, chasing, explaining, or proving. Your power was always in your access. You are the locked garden, the VIP room, the limited edition they treated like a discount item. That's why their ego is cracking now. It's like someone throwing out a dusty painting, then watching it appear on the news as a lost masterpiece worth millions. That punch in the gut, that, oh no, what did I do? That's their chest right now every time your name runs through their mind. Not because they suddenly became deep, but because reality hit them where it hurts, in their pride. And listen, chosen one, I know another question is creeping in. If they regret it, doesn't that mean they learned? No. Regret and growth are not twins. Regret is the lazy cousin of change. Regret is what someone feels when the bill shows up at the table. Change is paying that bill, tipping well, and never repeating the same mistake. They're not upset about how they treated you. They're upset about how losing you feels. That's a big difference. Regret says, I miss what you did for me. Growth says, I see what I did to you. Most people stay stuck in the first one. Letting them back now would be like giving a thief a spare key because they cried about getting caught. Why would someone who stole from your peace suddenly become the guardian of it? Why would someone who thrived off your confusion suddenly become the protector of your clarity? Their track record already testified against them. When they had full access, they gave minimum effort. When your heart was wide open, they gave you crumbs and excuses. Now that the door is shut, suddenly they remember your worth. No, they remember the convenience. Chosen ones, your presence was never background noise. You were the main system. You were the signal, not the static. Your energy was the structure holding up parts of their life they were too lazy to build themselves. You were the quiet organizer behind their chaos, making sure things didn't collapse completely. They thought that meant you'd always stay. But here's the plot twist they never saw coming. You outgrew the role of savior and stepped into the role of self-respect. You didn't just walk away, you leveled out of their league. Right now, while they replay memories like reruns, you are rewriting your script. While they look for you in other people, you are becoming a version of yourself even you haven't fully met yet. And that terrifies them, because the person they took for granted is not the person who exists today. The version of you that tolerated the bare minimum has retired forever. They don't regret losing you. They regret losing access to the version of themselves they could only maintain when you were holding them up. My dear chosen one, if this is hitting your chest, that's because deep down, you already know you were never ordinary. You were the exception they treated like the rule. So as we move deeper into this message, lock in with me. If you feel this truth in your bones, pause for a second, like this video, subscribe, and drop your energy in the comments so this reality can reach more people who need to hear it. Your access is premium. Your energy is limited edition. Not everyone deserves a second shot just because they finally woke up to what they lost. Stay with me until the end, chosen one. We're about to break down exactly why their regret is not your invitation to reopen the door. Chosen ones, before we go any further, let me speak directly to you. If this message is already striking a nerve, if you can feel that shift in your chest, the realization that they truly regret losing access to you, then stay with me. Your support is what keeps this mission alive. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop 77 in the comments to claim your seat among those who refuse to let the wrong people circle back into their lives. And if you feel called, a super thanks goes a long way in helping us keep delivering this powerful, transformational content. Now breathe in, chosen one, because what comes next will confirm everything you've been sensing. Only the truly chosen recognize these signs, because not everyone is built to rise the way you are. Let's get into it. Number 1. The day they lost your warmth was the day their world turned ice cold. When they lose the warmth they took for granted, the cold teaches them what you never needed to repeat. You didn't turn cold, they just finally felt the temperature you were protecting them from. My dear chosen ones, let this line strike right where it belongs, because the moment someone loses access to the warmth you carried so naturally, the world around them stops feeling comfortable. And the most brutal part, they thought the comfort came from their own life. They never realized you were the climate that kept their chaos from freezing them alive. That's why this hits them so hard now. When your presence leaves, their reality goes ice cold in a way they never expected. Chosen ones, the truth is simple. They didn't lose a person. They lost the one environment where they felt emotionally safe. You were the quiet warmth that made their messy world feel survivable. You were the steady temperature they assumed would never drop. They thought you were replaceable, like a space heater they could flick on and off. They didn't realize you were the entire season. They didn't realize your energy wasn't a feature, it was the foundation. Now the cold is teaching them what you were too kind to say out loud. And I know what you might be wondering right now. Why does it hit them now? Why didn't they realize all of this while they still had me? Because regret doesn't show up at the moment they hurt you. Regret arrives when consequences start talking louder than their pride. They thought you'd be there forever. They counted on your patience. They gambled with your presence like it was infinite. And when you finally stepped away, reality slapped them with the truth. You were the warmth, the stability, the comfort they were borrowing the whole time. Picture this. chosen one. Someone walks out into winter thinking they're invincible. The cold doesn't bite instantly, it creeps in, slowly, quietly. Then suddenly it hits, hard, numbing, unavoidable. That's what your absence feels like to them. At first they shrugged it off. They thought they'd adjust. They thought they'd find another version of you. But there is no version of you. There is only you, and every person they've tried to connect with since feels like cardboard compared to the depth and warmth you carried so naturally. Think of someone tasting food with no seasoning after being spoiled by a chef-level meal every day. That confusion, that disappointment, that blandness, that's the energy they're meeting everywhere they go. People with no spark, no depth, no stability. Knockoffs with shiny packaging, but nothing inside. They're learning a painful truth. What made them feel alive wasn't their environment. It was you. Chosen one, let's address the question that loves to sneak into your mind late at night. Do they regret losing me or just the benefits? The answer is sharp but honest. They regret losing the ecosystem you provided, the emotional warmth, the mental clarity, the stability they never built for themselves. They regret losing the comfort of being understood without explaining. They regret losing the peace you brought just by existing near them. That's what they're chasing. Not you, but the emotional shelter they lived in while calling it normal. Here's the part they'll never admit. They never believed you'd leave. They mistook your patience for dependence. They mistook your kindness for weakness. They mistook your loyalty for lack of options. That illusion was their safety net, and the day you cut it, they crashed straight into a reality they weren't prepared for. My dear chosen ones, listen closely. Regret is not transformation. Regret is not accountability. Regret is not growth. It's just a reaction to discomfort. It's survival mode disguised as emotional awakening. They're not missing your soul. They're missing the warmth that made their flaws tolerable. They're missing your energy because their own was never enough to sustain them. If you let them back in now, you are not giving someone a second chance. You are signing up for the same cycle, the same pattern, the same ache. A snake that sheds its skin doesn't stop being a snake. Someone who couldn't value you in the light won't magically honor you in the dark. The cold they're feeling now isn't your responsibility to fix. Let them miss you. Let them face the winter they created. Let them taste the consequences of taking your warmth for granted. That's not revenge, that's reality. Your absence is their lesson. Your growth is their reminder. Your evolution is the proof of what they never deserved twice. Chosen one, keep rising. Let them shiver in the world they built. Your warmth is not theirs to reclaim. Your light isn't a shared resource. You were the sun in their sky, and they chose to walk into the shade. Now, let them stay there. Number 2, when your fire faded, their entire reality froze in place. When they lose the flame that held their world together, the cold teaches them a lesson they can't escape. They didn't lose the fire, you simply stopped burning for people who kept showing up with empty hands. My dear chosen ones, hear this clearly. The moment your flame went out of their life, their entire world dropped into a temperature they were never built to survive. They didn't just lose warmth. They lost the only fire that ever cared enough to keep them from freezing in their own mess. And now the cold isn't just uncomfortable, it's punishment. It's the reality check they earned through every moment they took your presence for granted. Let's speak the truth they avoid now that you're gone. They don't miss you. They miss the version of themselves they could only feel when they were basking in your fire. You made them feel stable, valuable, and capable. Without you, they're face to face with their old insecurities, their old habits, and their old chaos. They mistook your flame for a permanent resource. They believed it was automatic, unlimited, guaranteed. But even fire needs fuel, and they never brought a single spark to keep it going. They sat by your flame like entitled spectators, taking in the warmth, stretching out their hands, getting comfortable, without offering even the smallest branch of effort in return. Chosen one, imagine someone sitting by a campfire they didn't build. They stay warm, cozy, protected. But instead of feeding the flame, they wander off, assuming it'll keep burning without care. By the time they return, the fire has died. The ashes are cold. The night is unforgiving. That is exactly what they did to you. They enjoyed the warmth while disrespecting the source. And now the cold they're shivering in, that's their own doing. That's the winter they created by treating you as a backup heater instead of a blessing. And I know the questions you're wrestling with. Do they actually miss me? Did they ever care? Why now? Why after everything? Here's the honest answer, one that hits as sharply as truth always does. They miss the comfort, not the connection. They miss the benefits, not the bond. They miss how you made their life easier, not how they made yours harder. Their "I miss you" isn't love. It's panic. It's dependency. It's survival mode disguised as affection. When someone loses a fire they relied on, the first emotion they feel isn't love. It's fear. Fear of the cold. Fear of facing themselves. Fear of losing the emotional life support you provided without charging them a dime. Think about how they behaved. You were the one jump-starting their dead battery over and over again. You were the patchwork holding together their falling-apart foundation. You were the emotional charger they depended on, draining your battery every time theirs hit zero. And when your own energy flickered, when your flame dimmed because they kept taking without giving, they didn't notice. They didn't ask if you were burning out. They didn't check if you needed heat, too. They only noticed when you unplugged them for good. Chosen ones, let me make something painfully clear. Dependency is not devotion. Regret is not change. Loneliness is not love. They don't want you back because they suddenly grew into someone deserving. They want you back because the cold hurts more than they expected. And you were the only fire that ever made them feel alive. Now ask yourself, if they truly valued your warmth, why didn't they protect it? Why didn't they feed it? Why didn't they show up with effort, consistency, and care? You know the answer. They assumed your fire was eternal. They assumed you'd never walk away. They assumed you'd always burn for them. But the moment you stopped, their whole inner climate collapsed. That's why your silence is louder than their apologies. That's why your absence feels like punishment. That's why their regret is suffocating them. Because your fire wasn't just warmth, it was transformation. Your presence made them better. Your encouragement made them hopeful. Your attention made them feel like they mattered. Without you, everything they once felt protected from is now standing in front of them with no buffer. And here is the part that empowers you. Chosen one, you were not meant to keep relighting flames for people who walk into storms on purpose. You're not a fireplace for people who bring in snow. You're not a candle for people who enjoy blowing you out just to see if you'll relight again. Let them freeze. Let them feel the cold they created. Let them learn the cost of neglecting the flame that kept their world alive. You, chosen one, are the fire. They are the consequences, and you were never meant to go back and save them from the winter they built with their own hands. You have rising to do. Number 3, their regret reveals their emptiness, not your worth. People don't cry over losing you. They cry over losing what their life looked like when you were in it. My dear chosen ones, let that quote slice straight into the truth they've been hiding from you. Because when someone regrets losing access to you, it's not a reflection of how valuable you suddenly became in their eyes. It's a reflection of what they can no longer take from you. Their regret isn't a love letter. It's a withdrawal symptom. It's the craving of someone who lived off your energy like it was free oxygen, only to realize the tank was never theirs to begin with. Chosen ones understand this with absolute clarity. Their regret is about their loss, not your worth. If they valued you, you wouldn't be sitting here questioning it. Value doesn't hide. Appreciation doesn't go silent. People who truly care don't wait until they're locked out to start knocking. If they cherished you, you would have felt it in their consistency, not in their excuses. But they didn't show care. They showed comfort. And comfort turns people lazy. Comfort makes them assume you'll keep giving even when they stop showing up. Picture this: someone living off free electricity for years. They plug in every device, drain every outlet, leave every light on, and never once think about the cost because they believe the energy will never stop. They treat it like a permanent privilege, not a resource. And then one day, everything shuts down. The breaker flips. No lights, no warmth, no power. The silence is deafening. The cold is immediate. Do they suddenly have reverence for electricity? No. They panic because they can't charge their comfort anymore. That's exactly what their regret is. They don't miss you, chosen one. They miss what your energy powered in them. They miss the emotional stability you gave them. They miss the security that wrapped around their chaos like a blanket you never charged them for. They miss the version of themselves they could only maintain because you kept sweeping up the mess behind them. They miss the confidence they borrowed from you. They miss the calm they stole from your presence. They miss the peace they never contributed to. But missing the benefits of you is not the same as valuing you. And I know the question creeps into your mind like a whisper. Did they ever actually care about me? Listen closely. If they did, you would have known without doubting. Care doesn't hide in silence. Respect doesn't disappear when convenient. Appreciation doesn't require translation. If someone genuinely cares, they don't wait until they lose access to prove it. They show it while they still have the privilege. Not afterward. Not once the consequences kick in. Their regret is discomfort, not transformation. It's not growth. It's not maturity. It's not a revelation. It's survival panic. They're not sorry for how they treated you. They're sorry that the treatment no longer benefits them. It's the same energy as someone who stopped speeding only after they crashed the car. They didn't become responsible. They just became scared. That's regret. Fear of consequence masquerading as accountability. So when they come back with sweet lines like, "I realized your worth," or "I've changed," or "I'm not the same person anymore," understand what's really happening. Change without accountability is just manipulation wearing perfume. A soft voice on top of the same old patterns. A new coat of paint over the same broken wall. Chosen one, you don't owe them closure. You don't owe them reassurance. You don't owe them a conversation. You definitely don't owe them access. Their regret is their burden to carry. Their loss is their reminder. Their discomfort is the echo of your absence. And none of that is your responsibility. Your worth? It stays untouched, unshaken, untouched by their tears or their timing. You keep walking forward, head up, energy rising, becoming more unreachable with every step. Let their regret stay exactly where it belongs, on their back, not on your conscience. They gambled with you. They lost you. Now their regret is the price they pay. And you, chosen one, keep rising higher, permanently out of reach. Number 4. They wanted the rewards of you without doing the work for you. They want the glow without the grind, but you're done raising people who won't even stand up. They don't miss you. They miss the comfort they got while putting in zero effort. My dear chosen ones, this is where truth cuts deeper than any goodbye ever could. Because the people who regret losing access to you aren't mourning the connection. They're mourning the benefits of the connection. They didn't crave you. They craved what came with you. They wanted the glow you carry, but not the heat that forged it. They wanted front row access to a life they never helped build, never contributed to, never respected. And now that the door is locked, suddenly they're acting like they've had an awakening. But let's be real, this isn't transformation. This is entitlement in panic mode. Think about it, chosen one. Everyone wants the glow, but almost no one wants to stand in the fire that created it. They want the treasure without lifting a shovel. They want the rewards without the responsibility. They want the peace you provided while they offered nothing but storms. They want the wisdom you earned through your scars while they refused to learn from their own. They want your loyalty when they never once matched it. They want the solid presence you showed when everything in their life was collapsing. Yet they vanished whenever you needed even a fraction of that same stability. They miss the benefits, not the bond, the comfort, not the connection, the safety, not the soul. And the moment you took those benefits back, the truth began to choke them. Everything they loved about their life while you were in it was coming from you. Now they say things like, "I miss you," but what they really mean is, "I miss the emotional safety net I never earned." They miss having someone who carried them while they dragged their feet. They miss having someone who reminded them of their potential while they wasted their days. They miss having someone who believed in them while they doubted everything. You weren't a partner to them. You were a support system they exploited. And I know what question is poking at your mind right now. But what if they actually changed? Let's shut that illusion down. Real change is visible. Real change is consistent. Real change doesn't require convincing, apologizing, or begging for access. If they truly transformed, you wouldn't be confused. You wouldn't be doubting. You wouldn't be listening for sincerity between the lines. You'd see it in what they do, not what they say. Growth announces itself in actions, not in access requests. Someone who has evolved doesn't need to rehearse a speech. They show up differently, consistently, without needing a single reminder. Most people don't change after losing access to a chosen one. They get desperate. Desperate for the comfort. Desperate for the security. Desperate for the version of themselves they could only maintain when you were the one holding up the structure. That's not growth. That's dependence. That's survival mode dressed in emotional vocabulary. Imagine someone smashing a door during a tantrum, then returning a month later, shocked that it no longer opens. They're not sorry they broke it. They're upset that they can't walk through it anymore. That's what their regret sounds like. Entitlement, gasping for air. They'll try soft tones. They'll try emotional stories. They'll try apologies dipped in nostalgia. They'll try recycled lines that once worked on you. But regret without effort is manipulation wearing a polished mask. They don't want to rise to your level. They want you to drop back down to theirs, where they feel comfortable, where they don't have to grow, where their laziness doesn't stand out, where their inconsistency isn't exposed. Chosen one, letting them back in now, wouldn't be compassion. It would be betrayal, self-betrayal. You didn't climb this far just to hand the elevator back to someone who refused to take the stairs. If they want access again, they'd have to elevate. They'd have to match your effort, your consistency, your standards, your growth, and most won't. Not because they can't, but because comfort has always been easier for them than accountability. Those who value you will climb. Those who don't will stay behind, staring at the life they could have been part of, regretting the access they will never touch again. Let them watch. Let them learn. Let them feel the loss of what they took for granted. Remember the title, Chosen One. They regret losing access to you. Don't let them come back. Number 5. You were their lifeline, not their shortcut to comfort. You weren't their partner in growth. You were the life support they abused until the cord finally snapped. My dear chosen one, remember this. Some people didn't want you. They wanted the survival kit that came with you. Chosen ones, let that line land exactly where it needs to, because the people who regret losing access to you now aren't grieving the relationship, the connection, or even the version of you they once knew. What they're actually grieving is the collapse of their own stability now that you're no longer the one holding them up. They didn't cling to you out of love. They clung because without your energy, their life flatlined. You weren't their equal. You were their life support system. Let's call it what it is. You weren't a friend to them. You weren't a partner. You weren't someone they respected. You were their emotional oxygen mask. You were the backup generator powering their entire inner world. You were the mental first aid kit they reached for every time their own patterns knocked them to the ground. You kept their spirit alive long after they had given up on themselves. You believed in them when they didn't believe in their next breath. You held them up with strength you barely had for yourself. And the cruelest part, they took all that energy from you like it was their right. Chosen one, picture this clearly. Imagine someone drowning, not because life pushed them under, but because they refused to learn how to swim. And instead of trying to save themselves, they climb on top of you, grabbing your neck, pushing you beneath the water because they believe your lungs will always fill them before they fill you. That's exactly how they treated you. They didn't want to grow. They wanted you to keep them alive. They didn't want to learn. They wanted to drain you until your strength resembled their weakness. They weren't looking for partnership. They were looking for a shortcut. They wanted your fire without building their own. They wanted your strength while avoiding every opportunity to develop any. They wanted your clarity to hide their confusion. They wanted your emotional labor while offering you nothing but excuses, laziness, and baggage with a smile wrapped around it. They came to you empty and walked away full, and you didn't even realize how much they were taking until you were running on fumes. And I know the question that likes to pull at your ribs. Was I too kind, too patient, too giving? No, chosen one. Your kindness wasn't the problem. Their entitlement was. Your generosity wasn't the issue. Their dependency was. You weren't too much. They were doing far too little. They treated your effort like an obligation. They treated your heart like a service. They treated your presence like a privilege they never had to earn. You weren't a step stool. You weren't a ladder. You weren't the escalator to a future they had no intention of contributing to. You were the one doing all the heavy lifting while they hung off you like dead weight, expecting you to drag them into a life they didn't work for. And each time you carried them, you slowed down your own elevation. Every time you bent your standards to keep them comfortable, you were shrinking your destiny to fit someone who had no intention of rising with you. Letting people like that stay wasn't compassion, it was self-sabotage. Carrying them wasn't support, it was self-abandonment disguised as loyalty. Because every time you lifted them, you sank a little deeper. Every time you tolerated their excuses, you dimmed your own growth. Every time you saved them, you delayed your own breakthroughs. Chosen one, elevation isn't just about rising. It's about choosing who gets to rise with you. And the truth is, not everyone deserves a seat on your ascent. The ones who belong in your future don't need your life support. They bring their own strength to the table. They stand on their own legs. They meet you at your level. The rest? They can stay behind, exactly where they chose to remain when growth required effort. Your energy is not cheap. Your presence is not a public resource. Your strength is not a charity. Your heart is not a self-service station. Chosen one, protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. You weren't their path to greatness. You were the safety net they abused, the lifeline they took for granted, the support system they depended on while refusing to grow. And now that the cord is cut, let them feel the collapse they avoided for so long. You're done being their life support. You're rising on your own terms now. Number 6. They searched everywhere only to learn. There's no second version of you. They can circle the whole world, but there's no second edition of you anywhere. They thought you were replaceable until every replacement felt like drinking water after tasting fire. My dear chosen ones, listen closely, because this part cuts the deepest for the ones who took you for granted. When they walked away, they truly believed they were walking away from something ordinary. They thought you were just another face, another body, another voice, something the world had plenty of. They assumed that the loyalty you gave was a common trait, that the patience you held was easy to find, that the emotional depth you carried lived in every other person they'd meet next. And that delusion was the comfort they clung to when they left. But reality has a funny way of delivering the truth without mercy. Now they're out there searching, scrolling, swiping, wandering, chasing, hoping that somewhere in the crowd there's another you waiting to recreate the feeling they once took for granted. They believed the world was full of carbon copies. They believed your energy came with a barcode and a price tag. But life has a brutal way of correcting ignorance. The more they search, the more painful it becomes, because the truth gets louder with every encounter. You were not a type. They were lucky. Chosen one, think of someone tossing away a rare painting because the colors didn't excite them that day. They believed they could always buy something similar, something cheaper, something good enough. Then imagine the shock when they see that same painting being praised as one of the rarest masterpieces ever created. That's the punch they're feeling now. They discarded art. Now they're stuck with flyers and photocopies. You weren't a common piece. They were standing in front of a phenomenon and treated it like clutter. And I know what question lingers in your heart. The one that tries to whisper doubt. Do they regret losing me? Or do they just regret losing the emotional experience they got from me? I'll tell you the truth with no sugar, chosen one. What they regret is losing the one environment where they felt understood, grounded, and emotionally alive. They regret losing the version of themselves that only existed when they were in your presence. But don't confuse that for love or change. Regret doesn't evolve people. It exposes them. Their regret is not a sign of emotional growth. It's the discomfort of being pushed out of the paradise they never watered. Now they're meeting people with shallow conversations that end as quickly as they start. They're encountering energies that feel flimsy and unsteady. They're comparing every new interaction to the depth you offered with ease. They're craving connection, but everything they touch feels hollow. The warmth isn't there, the safety isn't there, the alignment isn't there. They keep running into people who drain instead of fill, who take instead of understand, who talk without listening, who show up halfway and leave halfway. Every comparison they make drags them deeper into the truth they tried to avoid. You are one of one. Chosen one. Imagine them scrolling through people like shopping items, hoping, wishing, praying that someone matches your energy. But all they keep finding are counterfeits. No soul, no depth, no spark, no substance. It's like tasting food with no flavor after being spoiled by a 5-star chef. And the more they search, the more the emptiness spreads inside them. But here's what you need to hold tight. Their searching is not your problem. Their loneliness is not your invitation. Their regret is not your responsibility. Their comparisons are not your burden. They didn't value you when your access was unlocked. They won't suddenly transform into someone worthy just because life is teaching them a lesson now. Regret doesn't rewrite their character. It just exposes it. Let them wander. Let them look. Let them compare. Let them ache. Let them lose sleep, scrolling through memories of you. Every path they take leads to one reality. There is no second you. And the beauty, my dear chosen ones, is that while they're busy searching for what they lost, you're becoming an even greater version of yourself, further out of reach, further above their level, further away from the place where their access ever mattered. Their regret is the echo of their choices. Your worth remains untouched. You are the rare one, and that's why they'll never find your replacement. Number 7. Their apology is just a polished mask over the same old behavior. Their apology is just a fresh coat of paint on a cracked foundation they never planned to fix. A sorry without change is just a strategy, not sincerity. My dear chosen ones, let that hit exactly where it needs to. Because when someone loses access to you, the rare energy they thought would always be on standby, they don't suddenly turn into a healed, self-aware masterpiece. No, they panic, they scramble, they reach for that one word they hope will unlock the door again. Sorry, but a guilty conscience doesn't build character. It just crafts prettier lies dressed as remorse. Chosen ones, hear me loud and clear. Most apologies aren't apologies at all. They're survival tactics. They're emotional shortcuts. They're attempts to slip past the boundary you finally enforced. When someone who mishandled you suddenly finds themselves outside your world, they don't evolve. They react. They don't rise. They cling. They don't do the work. They hope a few soft words will erase months or years of behavior they never corrected when they had the chance. They're not apologizing because they grew. They're apologizing because they lost access to the comfort you provided. It's like someone breaking a priceless vase, grabbing the cheapest glue they can find, slapping the pieces together and handing it back to you like it's brand new. The cracks are still there. The structure is still unstable. And the moment any pressure touches it, it shatters again. That's what their apology looks like. Cosmetic, quick, fragile and hollow. And I know what question is creeping into your mind, chosen one. But what if they really mean it this time? Let's answer that with truth instead of hope. If they truly meant it, they would have acted before the loss, not after it. Respect speaks before damage is done. Accountability shows up during the relationship, not after the exit. People who value you don't wait until the door closes to suddenly discover your worth. They show it while the door was open. Their apology is not revelation, it's discomfort. Think of someone who only starts caring about their health after the collapse. That sudden fear isn't commitment, it's panic. They're not choosing responsibility, they're reacting to consequences. Same pattern, different story. They're not sorry for hurting you. They're sorry that hurting you cost them access to someone who made their life easier. Imagine a tree that looks sturdy on the outside but is hollow inside. Lean on it and it snaps instantly. That's their "I'm sorry." It stands up fine in a sentence but collapses under the weight of real effort, real responsibility, real change. The moment life tests it, the moment accountability is required, it breaks back into the same pattern, the same excuses, the same cycle that pushed you away in the first place. Chosen ones, people don't transform because they lost you. They transform when they face the flaws they've been avoiding. And trust me, they haven't. Unless they've dismantled the behaviors they denied, unless they've rebuilt themselves from the inside out, unless they've done the uncomfortable work of real growth, their apology is nothing more than a pause button, a temporary silence, a reset, a tactic to get back into the life they never respected when they had access. They want comfort, not accountability. They want entry, not evolution. They want the benefits of you, not the responsibility of valuing you. And if you let them back in without proof, actual proof, you're not giving someone a second chance. You're handing them the same opportunity to break you again. That's not compassion. That's self-sabotage. Your kindness is not a weakness. Your heart is not a doormat. Your peace is not a community service project. You earned your growth. You fought for your clarity. You bled for your boundaries. Don't let a recycled apology undo what took you months or years to rebuild. Let them sit with the silence. Let them carry their regret like the weight it is. Let them face the consequences they created with their own hands. Their apology is theirs to deal with. Their discomfort is theirs to process. Their consequences are theirs to live with. And you, my dear chosen one, you move forward, untouched, unbothered, unavailable. Their regret doesn't rewrite the past. Your evolution rewrites the future. Keep rising. Their apology can stay behind where it belongs. Number 8. You were their emotional support system, not their equal partner. You were their emergency exit, not their equal. My dear chosen ones, let this truth land with the weight it deserves. You were never their partner. You were their emotional backup plan, and nothing exposes a person faster than the moment they lose the one they depended on, without ever giving anything back. They didn't miss you. They missed the steady ground they only felt when standing on top of you. That's the kind of truth that hits them like a punch to the chest today. Because now they're realizing you were the structure keeping their collapsing inner world from caving in completely. Chosen one, they weren't drawn to your soul because they valued who you were. They were drawn to your stability because they lacked their own. You became their emotional anchor without ever being asked. You became their late-night crisis hotline, their safe space, their emergency exit, their last-minute rescue. Anytime their fears spiked, they called you. Anytime their insecurities screamed, they ran to you. Anytime their life spun out of control, they dropped it in your hands without hesitation. And because of your heart, your capacity, your empathy, your depth, you carried every piece of them as if it were your responsibility. But the moment you needed support, silence, disappearing acts, half-hearted replies, excuses wrapped in apologies. They wanted you to hold them together, but they never planned to show up when you were the one unraveling. They expected you to refill their emotional tank while letting yours run dry. That's not love. That's emotional extraction. That's dependence disguised as connection. Chosen one, picture someone leaning on a crutch with all their weight, never bothering to strengthen their own legs. The moment the crutch is pulled away, they collapse, not because the crutch betrayed them, but because they never learned to stand. That's them now. They're not falling apart because you left. They're falling apart because they spent their entire connection using you as the spine they refused to grow. And I know a question might be knocking in the back of your mind. Did they ever actually care about me? Hear me clearly. Care is shown in presence, not dependence. If they truly cared, you wouldn't have faced your hardest moments alone. If they truly valued you, you wouldn't have been the only one carrying the emotional weight of two people. If they genuinely appreciated you, they wouldn't have drained you until you were running on fumes. Their regret now is not emotional awakening, it's panic. Regret is their survival mode, not their transformation. They don't miss you as a person. They miss the emotional labor you performed without being thanked. They miss the reassurance you offered before they even asked. They miss the comfort of knowing you'd pick up every broken piece they dropped. But none of that belongs to them anymore. You are not their unpaid therapist. You are not their emotional ambulance. You are not their emergency contact when life goes wrong and their entertainment when life goes right. You are not the life raft for someone who jumps into the ocean of their own chaos and expects you to keep them afloat. That's not connection. That's emotional dependency in disguise. Chosen one, you walked away empty because you poured everything into someone who never intended to pour back. They walked away full because they consumed every drop of your energy without ever replenishing a thing. And the audacity. They acted like that imbalance was normal. They acted like you owed them that emotional labor. Now, let them face the void they created. Let them confront the insecurities they always dumped onto you. Let them learn what independence feels like. Let them sit in that silence they once gave you. If someone only shows up in crisis and disappears when you're the one bleeding, they don't deserve access. Not then, not now, not ever again. Protect your peace, chosen one. Protect your heart. Protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. You were never their crutch. You are your own sanctuary now, balanced, whole, and finally done carrying people who refuse to carry themselves. When they regret losing access to you, remember this. Their regret does not mean they deserve a return ticket. Keep your gate closed. Keep your standards high. And keep walking forward without looking back. Number 9. Your silence left them face to face with the truth they've been running from. When your presence disappears, their truth finally comes out of hiding. Your silence didn't break them, it revealed them. My dear chosen ones, this is the part that hits the enemy right where their illusions used to live. Because when you walked away, you didn't just exit their life, you stripped away their hiding place. Your absence didn't punish them, it exposed everything they were terrified to confront. You were the shield they used to stand behind so they wouldn't have to face the consequences of their own decisions. You were the emotional filter that made their life look cleaner, calmer, and more put together than it actually was. You were the buffer, the soft landing, the quiet stabilizer. And the moment you stepped back, every mess they had tucked under the rug started crawling out in plain sight. Chosen ones, imagine someone hanging a beautiful painting over a shattered mirror. It works for a while. They get to pretend the break isn't there. They get to avoid the cracks, the distortions, the pieces. But then the painting gets removed, and suddenly everything they've been avoiding stares back at them. That's exactly what happened when you left. Your presence was the painting. You made them look better than they were. You softened their rough edges. You made their instability feel manageable. You gave shape to the life they were too lazy to fix. And now, with you gone, the mirror stands uncovered, broken, messy, undeniable. Every insecurity they once hid behind your reassurance is now screaming at them. Every flaw you masked with your patience is now showing up with a louder voice. Every mistake you softened with your empathy is now slamming into them unfiltered. You didn't hurt them. Their truth did. Your absence simply turned the volume up on the chaos they were always trying to mute. And, chosen one, I know the question drifting through your mind. Were they really avoiding themselves this whole time? Yes. Completely. Entirely. Absolutely. Your presence made it easy for them to pretend they were more mature, more grounded, more healed than they truly were. You carried emotional weight they never learned to lift. You held together pieces of their life they refused to repair. You gave them a sense of wholeness while they stayed hollow. With you next to them, they didn't have to grow. They could just lean on your growth. They didn't have to evolve. They could hide behind your strength. They didn't have to face themselves. You were doing the heavy emotional lifting for both of you. But when you walked away, that's when the real story began. Now they're stuck with the reflection they tried to outrun. No painting to hide behind. No warmth to soften the blow. No shield to protect them from their own patterns. Your absence didn't create their problems. It simply removed the blanket they wrapped around them. And here's the part they'll never say out loud. Their regret isn't romantic. It's survival. They're not missing your heart. They're missing the protection your presence gave them from their own inner chaos. You were their emotional escape route, their emergency exit, their soothing soundtrack when life got loud. Without you, they're trapped in a room full of their own unresolved issues, and there's no one left to blame or hide behind. That's why they circle back. Not because they realized your worth, not because they're ready to love you right. They come back to escape themselves. And chosen one, that is not your job. You're not a bandage for people who refuse to heal. You're not a safety net for people who keep jumping into their own problems. You're not a hiding spot for someone who doesn't want to grow. Your absence is their opportunity to evolve, but it is not your obligation to return. Let them wrestle with the mirror. Let them face the reflection that's been waiting for years. Let them deal with the consequences they handcrafted with their own choices. Because your rise is not a rescue mission. Your growth is not an invitation. Your elevation is not a signal to come home. My dear chosen ones, keep walking forward. Let them sit with the truth they spent so long avoiding. Let them live in the reality your presence once protected them from. You are no longer their shield. You are no longer their hiding spot. You are no longer their escape route. You are the reminder of the strength they lost access to, and the strength you finally claimed for yourself.